traders, how are we doing, guys? God bless each and every single one of you guys. We're going to get straight into some news here from Adam Aron, CEO of AMC, saying, I have enormous confidence in AMC in the 2026 to 2027 box office. So today, using my own money, I bought 250,000 more AMC shares personally at market price. I now own 2.5 million AMC shares. Yada, yada, yada. I ride with you. I put my money where my mouth is. So I think that's fascinating when you look at the overall trajectory of AMC and you look at GameStop. I know this man got a lot of slack for not doing what shareholders thought was right. But you're seeing the stock react enormously to this, up 6% back-to-back days. I assume some of that is his buying. And I love it, right? I love every single second of it. But I just was curious looking at Grok. What besides for today, when was the last time AMC CEO Adam Aron bought AMC stock, saying that he had multiple sales in 2021, 2022, but he did have a historical buy February 13th, 2017, right? So that long ago is how far you have to track back just to see a buy from this man. Almost 10 years, right? That's crazy. But when you look at the trajectory of the stock, you're seeing some beautiful price action on AMC, and that's what we're going to cover today. We'll cover AMC, GameStop, and IWM. So for all you who are new, make sure to punch the subscribe button, drop kick the like button. Let's get straight into it. So on AMC, we called this bottom, not to the T, right? But we did call multiple touches of bullish divergence here. You saw a 110% rally into that, traders. You then saw a flagging out. We were hoping that you would hold 144 as support, as that is actually, right? If you go to overnight trading, you are exactly at 144 on the stock. But looking at it now, right, this was your horizontal base for a potential shoulder, head, right shoulder, and you formed that right shoulder beautifully off of earnings, seeing a blast off up to 174. However, traders, you've seen a drop of about, 20%? Yeah, 28%, give or take. And then now you've seen a retest of 144 where you found previous support. So it is going to be so crucial here to see the volume pick up off of this announcement and for you to smash through 144, keeping it as future support. So that's what we're watching here going into tomorrow. You've seen some very, very positive couple days as you saw a kind of a RSI wedge form here on the daily time frame. Now, these are one of my favorite formations, guys. On the RSI, this is where boom, boom candles come in. All you need to do is continue this continuation through the wedge, past the RSI band, and past the 50 line. If all three of those things happen, traders, I expect tomorrow to be a freaking fun day in the markets for AMC. You did have a little of consolidated volume here on the volume profile begin to break off of this news, which is exciting, right? That's where we hope to see boom, boom candles come in, high volumes as AMC CEO shows confidence in the box office of 2026. The one thing I do caution traders is we did call out this gap fill to get filled, and you did, right? Seeing a nice reaction off of 125 or 128, but what we're still watching and waiting for is 112, guys. So it's very possible that you swing low here after rejection off 145, and then woo, right? No one wants to see it, but it's still very possible, right? So that's what we're watching for on the daily time frame for AMC. On the weekly time frame, seeing a nice reaction. Still not enough volume to push you up, but hopefully this closes and makes a bullish engulfing on the weekly time frame. That is the kind of momentum that I want to see out of this thing, going into a bullish next week. Fingers crossed. On the daily time frame, you did print more volume than the previous day, and I expect a lot of swing traders, options traders, and day traders to get in off of this news. This kind of announcement from Adam Aron is exciting, right? You have Unusual Whales posting it, 250,000 shares of AMC. So many people posting about this that you should get enough eyes to see volume continue to ramp up here. And hopefully, right, you could see short interest begin to squeeze here. But we're watching and waiting for a cross of 145. Now on Webull, right, you are currently at 144 in overnight trading. So you're above the daily 50-day EMA. You're above the 59-day EMA, even though the candle does not show as such. What's exciting here is, right, you are seeing that pump overnight, and hopefully if you can hold that pump and get above 145, you will continue to see this daily MACD curl green as volume begins to ramp up here. It looks really nice, and what you've seen here is a bounce off of your previous resistance as we had this kind of wedge-like formation back here that we were calling for. Yep, kind of consolidative wedge here, and broke out of it, rejected, and then came all the way back down to this trend line. Now, if we want to see this momentum hold, you need to see an established run at least up to 160, a retest to 144, and then blast off. That is your best case scenario on AMC. And I do believe, right, that the best is yet to come on this stock. You've seen risk on assets begin to take a little bit more room to run in the markets as you see things like Jerome Powell step down. Right. You see Kevin Warsh come into the stock market. The Fed is printing money. Whenever this happens, traders, it's very bullish for risk on assets as it's more liquidity circulating for these small cap stocks to then borrow and then lower their rates, especially AMC. Right. When you look at the debt on AMC, you're seeing a lot of restructuring deals that get me excited about posting away their high interest debt and focusing in on posting positive EBITDA like they have been. The earnings have been really good, so that's exciting. Getting into the quarterly time frame for AMC, this is something that we've covered in the past, but you have a big fat falling wedge on AMC. It's very self-evident here once you see this rocket ship, right, all the way back down, and you're now looking to test the top of the wedge once again, currently sitting around 340. What gets me jacked here, traders, is you have the quarterly MACD, one of the largest, most powerful momentum swing indicators in the market, kind of flashing green here. Right, you have this thing curling up as it did back in 2021 when you saw a huge swing in momentum, up 400%, up 455%. This thing, if it gets going, traders, is going to fly out of this falling wedge. So it is only, in my opinion, a matter of time before you see this thing bottom out and swing again towards another higher high. If you do that, you're going to break two significant resistances. You're going to break this one that you established during your AMC/APE combination here, dilution, whatever you want to call it, where you saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 taps along that trend line. That has been absolutely brutal, guys. You've seen a serious smash down off of that. And if you can swing higher here, break that, it is likely that you challenge the most important macro indicator, even though it's on the daily, on AMC, and the entire picture of things. What is that, you may ask? Just give me 1 second. Oh, yeah. That is the 200-day EMA. Now we're having fun, right? Because the 200-day EMA, traders, is below $2 for the first time in history for AMC stock. That is literally asking for pennies here. When you're currently sitting at 142, you're talking about a 60-cent swing, and you're above the 200-day EMA for the first time, guys, since 2022, right? You've seen multiple blips into this purple line here. That being your 200-day EMA, blip, blip, big blip, and then fail to hold, blip. And then this was your test, and death cross that really solidified the fact that this was a bearish formation. And I stand by the fact that a lot of YouTubers did not talk about this when it had occurred, right? Feeding the hopium, feeding the copium, whatever you want to call it. This was the most bullish setup you've had on AMC. The big squeeze back in 2020, the daily golden cross, you're building gamma, bam, right? Retest the 50 and then squeeze. You have a very, although not similar setup a very unique setup in which you can, if you can hold above this 50-day EMA, right, and outperform the market like you have the last couple days, you can see this thing go for another leg higher, cross the 200-day EMA, and if you hold strength traders, that is going to be the key to this puzzle in seeing some serious upside on AMC, right? Upwards of $5 to $10 to $15 if you want to see a lot of these macro targets get filled. Speaking of macro targets, what are our macro targets on AMC? Well, if you want to see a very long-term recovery, you have a couple different targets to watch for and to be wary for, right? I'm not a financial advisor. Do not do or trade on what I say. But these couple of horizontal lines here are going to be key resistance if you want to see a Carvana-like slow squeeze. You have, first and foremost, $10. One of the most important horizontal resistances on this entire stock, as it was your previous all-time low and your rejection here and here. I expect some serious sellers to step in here if you see a huge swing higher and then reject. If you're able to cross that, traders, I see $13 as there's a gap there on the daily, $19 gap there on the daily, and then a big, fat, juicy, tender-licking gap on the weekly time frame of $43. Make them holler. So those are our very, very macro gaps on AMC that I'd like to see fill within the next 3 years, fingers crossed, right? As you can see, this is a very drawn-out bottoming formation, but there is the opportunity to make a bottom, and that's what's more important here, right? So jumping into GameStop, before I do, just want to say thank you to everyone in the AMC community, GameStop community, people like Kyle Jones, Only in Paradise, supporting the channel for a very long time. Make sure, slap the like button for these guys, hit the subscribe button, and let's jump into GME. GameStop, you saw a little bit of a bounce off of that Morningstar confirmation candle that we called the previous video. Seeing the red candle, a long-wicked doji or inverted hammer, and then a equally as long bullish candle. This is very iconic of a Morningstar formation that you would see in a swing higher. So I do expect this thing to at least swing into the resistance here or the death cross that's going to occur at 23.50 or 23.25. I expect this to happen within the next week, but you never know, right? You do have some hopeful signs here as the daily MACD is curling up, and right, you've traded along this wedge. So as long as you hold this wedge, you're good. We did talk about the scenario in which you knife here and fill the gap. Still haven't done that, so that gap is still prevalent, currently sitting at 21.25. Beyond that, on the weekly time frame, kind of a nothing burger, but still holding this wedge. You've seen the 9-day cross through the 50, showing a big sign of bearish volatility here as the volume stepped in, as did the percentage, right? Down 11% last week. You should see an inside bar as this thing continues to consolidate, waiting for whatever cracky news is going to come from the CEO of GameStop, Ryan Cohen. Jumping into the 4-hour, you have a little bit of bullish momentum here, squeezing above the 9-day EMA and then coming into the 50. So if this thing's able to pump through, you should see a nice move tomorrow, potentially up to that $23 target. But that all predicates on whether or not you are able to hold the 9-day EMA and not get rejected by the 50. Let's see. That's some crazy resistance there. Expect to bump your head on that. That's your 4-hour chart for GameStop. Kind of just looking at this on the fly. Not all charts. So like TradingView, for example, doesn't show the $30 target that we had, but this was your pre-market during the eBay news on the 1st of May. You saw a serious smackdown, right? Rebound, that becomes a new established trend, and now you should expect to either break it or reject it and come back down here. So we're watching for that actively. Expect something pretty big to happen within the next week, just in terms of volatility. on the monthly time frame, you're still smooth sailing. Really, really just dry in volume. And you did get that fake out on the monthly MACD. If you guys can see, it's very, very tight because that's how close you were to seeing a macro flip on the monthly time frame of GameStop. You did get it at one point, but this was something that we're watching for closely. As you can see, the last 2 times you got this, crazy moves, right? 400 to 500% there in May of 2024. And the time before that was April of 2020. So pretty much marked your bottoms before big squeezes higher. If you're going to get that again, it's going to come from a monthly MACD cross. So we'll be watching that pretty closely as well. I think that's all we have for GameStop and the AMC, but I wanted to cover the GME warrants for my boy Only in Paradise. As you could see, GME warrants doing absolutely nothing because they suck. No, I'm joking. The GME warrants, let's pull up the daily time frame. Seeing a little bit of double bottom action, very similar to this formation right here. And you can even see in the volume, right? Volume really dry through this channel before you see a double bottom and then a spring higher. Very dry volume, double bottom, potentially a spring higher if GameStop wants to move. You saw a doji candle today, as you did a 9-day cross through the 200. So the fact that you're able to hold the strength of this horizontal trend of 335 or 337 is very, very bullish here. So if you're able to hold this double bottom, it's likely, in my opinion, that you see this thing swing higher. And you've seen the very, very obvious volume trend decline over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of just volume being dry and red. So I expect this thing to hopefully find a bounce here, find a double bottom, and swing into your very prevalent resistance trend here that would tap somewhere around 389 to this 380 territory. Expect resistance there, but it's still young, right? This stock is very much in its infancy. I'm not pretending to know everything about it. You did reject this trend, not just once, not just twice, not just 3 times, 4 times along this previous support acting as new resistance. So if you're able to smash this resistance line, right, there is a very real opportunity that you come all the way up to 435 and then reject that. Bounce, reject. Hopefully higher low, get back in, and then pump through. But that is all theoretical, right? You're closing literally on top of the 50-day EMA. So that is bullish. You want to close above that. If you don't, I would be worried that you're going to slice into $3 flat. I think that's all I got for the day, traders. God bless each and every single one of you guys. I hope you're having a fan-freaking-tastic Tuesday afternoon. As always, the best is yet to come. Peace.